In the latest episode of Jobless Reincarnation, the main focus is Roxy and Rudy getting reacquainted, and as feelings bubble up, this leads to some internal questions for Rudy, especially considering he not only has a wife, but is soon to be a father. And also, I should note, the search for Zenith continues. So, getting to the recap. When it comes to Roxy and Rudy, at first she doesn't recognize Rudy, but in her defense, it has been many years since they've seen each other, and it's a little bit jarring for her when she realizes how big he's gotten, and it leads to a lot of blushing. And for me, it kind of pushes the question of, should we take note of the age gap? But lest we forget, when the original Rudy died, he was 30-something. So even if you add on 18 years, with Roxy, it's probably more appropriate than it is with Sophie or Eris or the other people who he's messed around with. But setting that little complication aside, it's one of those situations where you can see for Roxy, there's definitely a crush there. For Rudy, it's potentially reciprocal. But again, he's married. He has a kid on the way, and while Sophie mentioned being open to a concubine in case she couldn't have kids, it's not clear how she would feel about Rudy cheating on her, asking for an open marriage. Never mind how Roxy would feel about that, and I would even add in, it's not even outright said whether or not Rudy wants to have that type of relationship. But setting that aside, while Roxy and Rudy try to figure out, as subtle as possible, what to do, even though Paul does peep what's going on, they walk their way to the fifth stratum, or what I guess is the fifth floor, and because of Rudy really showing that he understands and is very intelligent, he impresses Roxy, his father, Ellen Elise, the whole group, and he may have finally found the right transportation circle to finally rescue his mom, who has been kept away for years. And considering how Roxy looked just after a month, imagine what Zenith looks like having years being trapped inside of a labyrinth, potentially feeding off those monsters who probably are very tough to eat, and who knows what kind of toxins. And I mean, I'm probably thinking too deeply into it, but what, do any of these adventurers eat the monsters, or do they just slay them and keep it moving and their bodies just disappear naturally or rot? Because you would think at this point we would have seen some rotten monsters, considering how long and how many different adventures have probably gone through this labyrinth. But totally different topic, and I feel like we're going on a tangent. So getting to the review section, things are pretty short and sweet when it comes to this episode, and so is our review/highlight. And that's just the Roxy and Rudy feelings and the complications of it. For, as we noted in the recap, Rudy has a wife, kid on the way, yet he can't deny his feelings for Roxy. For Roxy, the child she helped mentor is now a man. A lot of time has passed, and you know, Roxy's not some asexual young woman. We saw what happened when she listened to Zenith and Paul messing around, and opportunities have arisen. So with that in mind, there comes the question. Again, Sophie mentioned the idea of having a concubine, but she never said anything about an open marriage. And when you think about it, even though Zenith had a very negative reaction to learning that Lilia was pregnant, we don't necessarily know much about human dating, relationship, and marriage culture. We know that with beasts, there might be some lax way of handling things, but what about people? And I take this as a world-building opportunity for the show. For a while, again, read some of the manga spoilers, so I have an idea of what's coming. There's always a question of whether or not the show will hold steadfast to what happened in the manga, or will it take its own route? If not, try to explore beyond the manga by taking notes of what was said or done and really just diving deeper into a topic, storyline, or situation.